Live from Melbourne, this is 7 Afternoon News with Rebecca Maddern.
Good afternoon. First at 4, there's a new crackdown on bikies and gun crime in Victoria, with a new police Viper team being set up to dismantle organised crime. Law and order is shaping up to be a key issue heading towards the state election, with the opposition hitting out at the government for failing to use laws they claim could have prevented the violence. Tegan Dolling has the details.
The Viper Task Force will strive to dismantle and prevent gang-related crime, such as shootings and other gun violence, which has exploded here in Melbourne over the last 6 months. It will include 80 specialist officers, including public order response, detectives and road policing experts.
It's going to prevent crimes occurring. It's about preventing, disrupting, deterring and dismantling. We will be holding them to account, and they will be making many arrests, I can assure you. I'm very confident we will see a significant difference as a result of this task force.
Victoria is the last state to bring in the dedicated task force, mimicking Sydney's Raptor and Queensland's Maxima. But experts say the delay has caused gang members to flock to Melbourne, where police are still yet to use the flawed anti-consorting powers, preventing members from associating with each other.
Those laws, when they were brought in, they were warned by the police they couldn't be used. They watered them down so much so that the Victoria Police could not use them in our state. If they had followed what Queensland did, then they would have actually seen the results what Queensland's got. Bikies want to move out from the Sunshine State so they can move to Bikies Paradise in Victoria, where they can nearly literally get away with murder. And that murder is one day going to be a victim on the street who is innocently walking past.
The Chief Commissioner sounded a warning to gang members that Viper will be watching their every move. Arrests will be imminent and the community should be reassured that the streets will be safer.
Getting a licence will be cheaper and good drivers will be rewarded financially under a new shake-up to VicRoads. The organisation will be partly privatised in an $8 billion deal. Nick McCallum has the story.
The government insists the 40-year, $8 billion deal is not privatisation, rather a partnership. The new agreement has immediate benefits for drivers. Costs for learners' permits drop by up to $51, for probationary licences by up to $133. And if you've driven for 3 years with no fines or demerit points, you get 25% off your licence renewal.
Would encourage people to drive more carefully.
I've got 30 years of unblemished record. Do I get extra?
The deal itself means a consortium of super funds will take over registration, licensing and custom plates. It will also totally upgrade VicRoads' inadequate IT system.
Their IT systems simply haven't been up to the task that a modern society requires and indeed that customers deserve.
The consortium gets an undisclosed percentage of all transactions and will pay the state government $7.9 billion to go into the future fund to deal with pandemic debt. The government insists it will control prices.
We have made it very clear that we retain control of those essential pricing issues around registration and licensing.
If you look at almost any privatisation in the history of the world, it has always led to higher prices.
Don't be fooled, in my view, by the government's spin. This sale will mean higher prices for registration.
It all means private data of millions of Victorians will now be in the hands of business. No problems, says the government.
The data remains in Australia. We have all the safeguards there.
It is better to keep that sort of really private information in the hands of the state government where it belongs.
I don't trust this government with privacy and data matters.
The government is confident the deal with the consortium should be complete by mid-August.
A vandal has smashed his way into a bottle shop in Melbourne's northwest to steal cigarettes. As Paul Dowsley reports, the heartbroken owner is facing a massive clean-up because of the mess the thief left behind.
The smell of wine is overpowering. About 1,000 bottles smashed when this shelving collapsed as a thief broke into this Sydenham bottle shop about 4:15 this morning. It all came crashing down at the Celebrations outlet on Overton Lee Boulevard as the thief used a ute outside to drag the front doors off their hinges. Once inside, his target was clear, and he was prepared with a portable angle grinder to cut his way through a padlock and get to the cigarettes. After a quick dash to the car, he returned with a large tub and loaded it up, his face covered as the alarm sounded. Nearby, the owner was woken by an alert on his phone, but by the time he and the police arrived, the thief was gone. The CCTV outside only shows one offender. It's unclear if someone was in that white ute. Does it surprise you that they were after cigarettes and not alcohol?
Put it this way, to carry cigarette is very light and easy. If they have to carry 10 bottles of beer or wine or wine or spirits, it's make heavy. They can't run fast.
The store is called Celebrations, and today should have been a celebration. It's the 22nd anniversary of the family opening this business, but instead of trading today, they are cleaning up.
Melbourne home prices have dropped for the second month in a row as interest rates soar. Houses and units are becoming cheaper to buy but more difficult to pay off. Finance editor Gemma Acton has more.
Good afternoon. House prices across Australia have slipped again, led by Sydney and Melbourne, but with weakness now becoming clearer in other cities and regional markets. That's dragged returns for the June quarter to negative 2.8% for Sydney and negative 1.8% for Melbourne. Hobart is flat, while in Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth, positive returns mask a pullback in the pace of growth. Poor consumer sentiment, alongside a lift in the number of properties being offered for sale, is deterring a formerly enthusiastic buyer group from competing hard for homes.
Buyers now, they are moving back into the driver's seat. There's more stock, there's less urgency in the market, they can negotiate a little bit harder as well.
The rising cost of debt is, however, the largest handbrake on the market. A 0.75% rise in the Reserve Bank cash rate since May has been followed up by dozens of lenders raising their home loan rates, with more likely to come.
The RBA has said it is prepared to do what it takes to get the inflation genie back into the bottle. They have said they want to act swiftly so that inflation as mindset doesn't become entrenched.
Another 0.5% hike is considered the most likely outcome of the Reserve Bank's next meeting on Tuesday.
A Melbourne mother is still fighting for life in hospital after being hit by a car in Sunshine yesterday afternoon. The woman was reportedly pushing a pram with 2 children inside when the 3 were struck on Ballarat Road. The children were taken to hospital in a stable condition. The driver stopped at the scene and is assisting police with their inquiries. All Australian women will soon be able to carry out cervical screening tests themselves in private. As Christy Cooper reports, it's hoped the World First program will help more vulnerable women access the life-saving tests.
This news will come as a relief to women everywhere. The days of the awkward and uncomfortable pap test are over. A cervical screening test is recommended for everyone with a cervix every 5 years to check for human papillomavirus, a common infection that can cause cervical cancer. But the test itself has always been pretty invasive and involved a healthcare professional accessing the cervix. Until today, a new self-collection option has become available, which means people can carry out the process themselves in private using a swab that's just like one used in a COVID-19 test. And it's much more sensitive, so experts say there's no need to worry about doing it incorrectly.
We're using PCR technology that people will be familiar with from the pandemic. It's very sensitive and very accurate.
Catherine Johnston says it'll be a game changer for women everywhere, including those who've avoided getting the tests for cultural reasons.
Sometimes even thinking that I'm going to see a male GP it's a challenge, and so the freedom to be able to do the test myself is such a great option.
Australia is leading the way when it comes to cervical cancer prevention. We're the first country in the world to offer self-collection, and we're also on track to become the first to eliminate cervical cancer, especially with this new test breaking down so many of those barriers to access.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will attempt to forge a new relationship with French President Emmanuel Macron tonight. It's the first time they'll meet since Scott Morrison ripped up the $90 billion submarine deal. Live now to political reporter Jennifer Beshwadi in Paris this afternoon. Jen, just how significant is this meeting?
Oh, Beck, it's incredibly significant. Anthony Albanese says that with it being July 1, it is the perfect time, of course, with a new year, to usher in a new dawn in the relationship with France. Now, of course, that relationship has been somewhat damaged after the previous government ripped up that submarine contract in favour of a new deal with the United States. And things just got worse when Scott Morrison released that private text exchange with the President Emmanuel Macron. Now, Anthony Albanese says that, well, he wouldn't say whether he will apologise on behalf of his predecessor for that, but insists that his interactions with world leaders will be much more professional. Here's what he had to say.
Well, one of the things I will do, and a part of keeping faith, is keeping private conversations private. It's the way I deal with domestic politics as well, and it's the way I intend to deal with diplomatic politics.
Now, Jen, the Prime Minister also met an old political foe in Paris.
Yeah, he met with Matthias Cormann, who now, of course, is the Secretary-General of the Global Policy Forum, the OECD. But just a couple of years ago, they sat at opposite sides in the Parliament. Now, at the OECD headquarters, Anthony Albanese delivered a speech where he committed to a more ambitious climate change target. He says that his government's more ambitious targets on climate is now opening up new doors on the international stage in terms of trade deals, and he's now confident that there will be a new free trade agreement with the European Union. That will form part of the talks with the bilateral meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron later today. After the meeting, Beck, the Prime Minister, will visit an art exhibit here in Paris featuring art by an Aboriginal artist. Beck.
Okay, Jen, have a lovely day in Paris. Thank you for joining us live. Up next, why rough sleepers could soon be setting up camp on the peninsula foreshore. Plus, the US Supreme Court deals a new blow to Joe Biden. And how every Victorian household can access $250 cash today. You're watching 7 News live across Victoria and Tasmania.